Greetings from the Book Whisper. Every story is a journey into a world of love, passion, deception, and self-discovery. Close your eyes, let the sounds carry you away, and may this story touch your heart. The Lilac House. Chapter 1, The Porch Swing. In the quiet, tree-lined streets of Chestnut Hill, Pennsylvania, the most exciting event was often the blooming of Mrs. Henderson's peonies. For Sophie Mitchell, life in the small town was a carefully curated diorama of comfort. She ran a beloved floral design studio, the Lilac House, out of the ground floor of her historic Victorian home. Her husband, William Mitchell, was the town's most respected orthopedic surgeon, a kind, steady man whose emotional repertoire had narrowed to a palette of gentle concern and mild distraction over their 9-year marriage. Her universe was her close circle, Ava, her pragmatic best friend who owned the local bookstore, Isabel, the perceptive and quietly rebellious librarian, and Mia, the vibrant, recently divorced owner of the new wine bar. They were her anchors and her echo chamber. And then came Elijah. Elijah Carter was a landscape architect from Philadelphia, hired to redesign the overgrown gardens of the Lilac House, where William was all reassuring, solid earth tones. Elijah was a storm of green and energy. He had calloused hands that knew soil and a laugh that seemed to startle the sleepy robins in the magnolia tree. Their first real conversation was about the stubborn wisteria clinging to the back porch. Their second, about the philosophical differences between English and cottage gardens. The third happened as a summer thunderstorm rolled in, trapping them together on that very porch swing. He reached over to move a stray curl the wind had plastered to her damp cheek. "Sophie," he said, the rain drumming a frantic rhythm on the roof, "you remind me of a hellebore, beautiful, perfect, and blooming when everything else is still asleep." No one had seen her as a rare, winter-blooming flower before. To William, she was a reliable perennial. To the town, a charming feature. The kiss was as inevitable as the lightning splitting the purple sky, a fusion of ozone and longing. Chapter 2, The Pressed Flower. The affair unfolded in stolen hours. Elijah's rented cottage on the outskirts of town, smelling of linseed oil and old books, became her secret greenhouse. He called her Soph, a name that felt younger, freer. He loved her drawings of fantastical, monstrous flowers that she'd never show anyone else. With him, she wasn't the town's perfect florist, she was an artist. Guilt was a faint, background scent, like mildew in a damp cellar, easily masked by the perfume of peonies and passion. Her alibi was Mia, who was always up for a girls' brainstorming lunch that never happened. The first petal fell at the Chestnut Hill Historical Society's garden tour. Sophie was in her element, a vision in a linen dress, explaining heirloom rose varieties. Elijah was a shadow at the edge of the crowd, capturing details with his old film camera. Then she saw Charlotte. Charlotte Webb was a landscape historian from the university, a guest lecturer for the tour. She moved with an academic's confidence and went straight to Elijah, her hand finding his forearm with familiar ease. They bent over his camera, heads almost touching, and his smile was the unguarded, boyish one Sophie thought belonged only to her. Later, sipping lemonade under the old oak, Ava sidled up to her. "Interesting," she murmured, nodding toward the pair. Charlotte Webb. Rumor has it she and Elijah had a fiery collaboration a few years back when he was consulting for the University Arboretum, ended when she got the grant to go to Italy, or so they say. Or so they say. The phrase took root, thorny and deep. That night, in the cottage, his embrace felt possessive, but his mind seemed elsewhere. "You and Charlotte Webb seem to have a lot to discuss," Sophie ventured, tracing the line of his stubble. He caught her hand, kissed her knuckles. "Old professional gossip, Soph. She's just passing through, competitive, that's all." His voice was smooth, but his eyes held a flicker of something evasive. Chapter 3, The Hidden Root. Doubt, once planted, grows towards the darkest source of water. Sophie noticed the new passcode on his phone, the supplier meetings that took him to the city on Saturdays, the faint, lingering scent on his jacket, not Charlotte's crisp citrus, but something softer, more floral, like lily of the valley. Driven by a need to know, she crossed a line. Using the key he'd given her, she let herself into his cottage while he was at a planning board meeting. The silence felt accusing. She found it not in a drawer, but in a book, a thick volume on Renaissance garden design. Pressed between the pages was not a flower, but a delicate, expert pencil sketch. It was of a woman's hands, graceful and strong, planting a bulb. The detail was intimate, loving. In the corner, initials, C, W, to E, C, perennial, C, W, Charlotte Webb, perennial, not a fleeting affair, something meant to last. The betrayal was no longer a suspicion, it was a preserved, delicate fact. She photographed the sketch with a numb hand, the artistic intimacy of it cut deeper than any love letter. Chapter 4, The Tangled Vine. Sophie's quiet investigation took a darker turn. She began to listen more carefully to town gossip, which in Chestnut Hill was a cultivated art form. Isabel, at the library, mentioned offhand that Charlotte Webb wasn't just visiting, she was being considered for a board position at the Chestnut Hill Land Trust, an influential group that controlled development and preservation grants that could fund projects like Elijah's. Then, while delivering a centerpiece to the town hall, she saw Charlotte in deep, tense conversation with Lucas Grant, William's rival at the hospital and the chair of the Land Trust. Lucas was nodding intently. On the table between them was a folder with the logo of William's surgical practice. A cold dread pulled in Sophie's stomach. Was this about more than a rekindled romance? Was Elijah's professional future tied to Charlotte's influence? And why was Lucas Grant, who'd always been subtly jealous of William's standing, involved? She confronted Elijah not with the sketch, but with a question: is the Land Trust grant important for the cottage garden series you proposed? He looked startled. It would secure it. Why? I saw Charlotte with Lucas Grant, they looked strategic. Elijah's face closed off. Charlotte has connections, she's helping, that's all, but his defensiveness was a neon sign. Chapter 5, The Poisonous Bloom. Armed with fragments, Sophie went to the one person who understood power dynamics in their small town, Mia, over a bottle of Pinot Noir at the now empty wine bar. Lucas Grant, Mia said, swirling her glass, he's been trying to get William's spot as head of the hospital's charitable foundation for years. Control of the foundation means influence over half the town's events and their budgets. If he gets Charlotte on the Land Trust board, and she steers contracts to her friends, it's a power move against William. Your Elijah might be a pawn, or a willing beneficiary. The pieces clicked into a terrifying mosaic. Her affair wasn't just a personal betrayal, it was potentially a weapon in a quiet war against her husband. The intimacy felt violated twice over. She couldn't confront William. Their marriage wasn't built for such seismic truths. Instead, she decided to play the game from within the affair. She became more devoted, more admiring of Elijah's work, all while gently probing. You'd be perfect for the riverfront restoration project, she'd sigh. If only the Land Trust could see it. I wonder if Charlotte has real sway there. Chapter 6, The Pruning. Sophie's subtle manipulation coincided with a shift in Elijah. He grew distant, anxious. Charlotte's presence in town became more permanent. She rented a house. The rumor mill buzzed. Charlotte and Elijah were seen having intense dinners at the inn. The breaking point was the Land Trust's annual dinner. Sophie attended on William's arm, the model of supportive wife. Elijah was there with Charlotte. Watching him pull out her chair, Sophie felt a pain so sharp it was surgical. She orchestrated a chance meeting with Charlotte in the ladies' lounge. The gardens at the old Miller estate are stunning this time of year, Sophie said, fixing her lipstick in the mirror. I hear you're quite the expert. Charlotte eyed her reflection. I appreciate beauty that has a strong, underlying structure, unlike some things that are all pretty surface. The barb was clear. Sophie turned, smiling her perfect florist smile. Structure can be so constraining, like a marriage, or a business contract. Sometimes, wildflowers choke out the planned perennials. Charlotte's smile didn't reach her eyes. Wildflowers are weeds, my dear, and weeds get pulled. 2 days later, Elijah came to the Lilac House, devastated. The Land Trust had abruptly awarded the riverfront project to a firm from out of state. Charlotte had withdrawn her support for him. She said I lacked focus, that my personal life was a distraction, he choked out, crying into Sophie's shoulder. She held him, stroking his hair, her heart a frozen lake. She had whispered doubts about his commitment, his divided loyalties, to the right people at the right garden club meetings. She had pruned him from the vine, and he thought the frost had done it. Chapter 7, The Harvest. The unraveling was swift and quiet, as things often were in Chestnut Hill. With no major project, Elijah's reason for staying vanished. Charlotte, her local influence apparently not yet solidified, returned to the university more often. Elijah came to say goodbye on a rainy afternoon that mirrored their first kiss. "I'm going back to the city, Soph. There's nothing for me here anymore." "Was there ever?" she asked softly, looking at the wilting hydrangeas. "You," he said, his eyes full of a lost, boyish hope. "You were. You could come, open a studio there." She looked at him, this beautiful, broken man who had been both her escape and her trap. The passion had been consumed in the cold fire of her own quiet scheming. "I can't, Elijah. This house, this town, it's my soil. I'd rather anywhere else." "And William?" he asked, a final, bitter spark. "William is part of the soil," she said, and it was the truest thing she'd ever said about her marriage. He left, his departure as quiet as his arrival. That evening, William came home late from surgery. He found her in the garden, staring at the darkening shape of the wisteria. "The Andersons decided to go with a Philadelphia firm for the hospital wing landscaping," he said, joining her. "Lucas Grant was pushing hard for a local consultant, some fellow named Carter, but it seems his references didn't quite hold up under scrutiny." Sophie's breath caught. She hadn't known about that contract. Scrutiny? A few well-placed questions about his current commitments, his stability. William put a hand on her shoulder. Its weight was familiar, solid. One must be careful about the roots one allows near the foundation. He knew, not the details, but the shape of it. His recent quietness hadn't been neglect, it had been observation. His subtle questions about her long lunches had been intelligence gathering. Chapter 8, The New Ground. In the aftermath, a profound, unspoken understanding settled between Sophie and William. Elijah's cottage was rented to a young family. Charlotte's name faded from gossip. Lucas Grant, having failed to secure the landscaping coup, lost a minor but symbolic vote at the hospital board. Sophie stood in her studio, wiring lilacs into a crown for the spring festival queen. Ava watched her from the doorway. "You've been quiet," Ava said. "The garden is resting," Sophie replied, not looking up. "And the gardener?" Sophie finally met her friend's gaze, tending to what's perennial. Ava, perceptive as ever, simply nodded and left. That night, William didn't bring her flowers. He brought her a website printout. It was for a prestigious, small-batch botanical perfumery course in Grasse, France. The foundation could use a unique charitable angle, a sense of the garden collection. It would require expertise. Sophie took the paper, her eyes blurring. It wasn't a romantic gesture, it was a reinvestment, a recognition that the carefully curated florist had depths and talents and a strategic mind he had finally chosen to see. "It would require a significant initial investment," she said, her voice steady. "I've reviewed the projections," he said. "The return, in terms of community engagement and reputation, looks favorable." They sat in the quiet of the Lilac House, not as a love-struck couple, but as partners who had, separately and then together, defended their shared territory. They had each pruned a threat to their ecosystem. The frantic, beautiful, poisonous bloom of the affair was over. What remained was the deep, complex, and fertile ground of a mature, understanding alliance. The tension was gone. The quiet, collaborative work of building something lasting had finally begun. And just like that, another journey on the Book Whisper comes to an end. We hope it was worth your while. If this story found a place in your thoughts, help us keep the magic alive. Subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss the next world we explore. Your like is the best signal telling us which tales to tell more of. Thank you for listening. Until the next adventure.